Hi, and welcome to the Dr. Z and J.W podcast. I'm J.W. Stewart, a veteran broadcaster and journalist with nearly 30 years experience. I've worked at ESPN and NBC, and now I teach at the University of New Haven.
And I'm Sheahon Zenger, Director of Athletics at the University of New Haven, previously the same position at the University of Kansas and Illinois State University. Prior to that, I spent many years in athletic administration and just as many years coaching college football. Welcome to the Dr. Z and J.W podcast.
Hi again, everybody, and welcome once again to the Dr. Z and J.W podcast. Thank you for joining us today across all of our social media channels. As always, our podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Play. Today, we're making history. For the first time in the history of the Dr. Z and J.W podcast, we are doing a remote broadcast. Dr. Z, where in the world are you?
Hey, it's like, where's Waldo, right? I'm on Prospect Beach on Ocean Avenue in West Haven, Connecticut. For the alums who are watching this, for the current students, staff, faculty, all part of the Charger community, Ocean Ave's right over here to my right. All the beautiful homes are over there. I'm sitting at a picnic table on Prospect Beach. That's why I picked this beach. It's a picnic table where I could put the laptop and show you just part of the beach and part of the sound, water, the ocean that I've come to know and love in my short time here.
Yeah, you've been here at the University of New Haven for a year, right? Just about a year?
Right. Yes.
It was last August, I think. Isn't that correct?
August 15th.
What was your impression? What was the first thing that popped into your mind when you came here and you had a chance to see the beach in Long Island Sound a year ago when you first arrived?
You know, it was a slow awakening to that. I came here because of the people. You've heard the story. President Kaplan, Dave Peterson, the folks on the search committee, the coaches, the folks I met. And then moved to Branford in an academic rental and had a great time over there, thinking I was Ernest Hemingway in this beautiful little sleepy town. And then when my wife came to visit, she suggested being closer to UNH and the shopping down Boston Post Road. And I thought, oh my, I don't know where that is. And through the help of some friends, found a place just literally 15 houses from where I'm sitting right now. Maybe 8 if I go down the street a little. I'm on this beach by 1 block. It's perfect. When things are rocking on this beach, I live a block off. But when I want to be a part of that, I bring my paddleboard and come right where I'm sitting right now. My friends dock their jet skis and their boats right down here, or offload them, and yeah, I carry my paddleboard. I'm a Midwesterner. It's like a Connecticut surfboard.
Yeah. How have you done paddleboarding? Had you ever paddleboarded before you got to West Haven?
You know, I've watched my kids do it, and let's just say my kids are really good at it. And I like to sit on it and float down the water and then bring it back.
Yeah, that's a lot easier, right?
That's right.
Although I think it defeats the purpose of the workout, but
yeah.
We'll let Foggy weigh in on that on another episode.
That's right. My son Jake had this idea. He was going to paddleboard all the way to Mystic, and I'm like, first of all, Jake, they're not going to let you cross the harbor over here, New Haven, East Haven Harbor. There's big ships coming through. They don't want some Huckleberry Finn floating on his paddleboard.
No, absolutely not. Give our viewers kind of a tour, if you could spin the laptop, to the left and to the right, and kind of tell us tell us what you see behind you.
So this is truly Prospect Beach, and I'm showing you where people offload the jet skis and the boats, and if on a sunny day, what you're looking at over there is Long Island. We can see Long Island from here, some of the buildings, et cetera, et cetera. I actually went to Port Jeff Friday on the ferry for the first time, which takes an hour and 15 minutes. It's one good snack away and just a great place to hang out. So if you go this way, that's the Prospect Fish and Game Club. It's kind of legendary around here. And then you start to see the houses and the homes as you go down Ocean Ave this direction. And if you shoot up that side street, you're almost to my house. So more than people want to know. The folks at the Prospect Fish and Game Club, I'm sure will be excited. They got a little airtime there. Good people. Enjoy hanging out with them on the weekends.
Now, it's a little tough to see, although if people really kind of zoom in a little bit, over your shoulders are the Thimble Islands. Is that correct?
No, that's Branford.
Right.
That's
Okay.
Branford. So if you really looked back over my shoulder this direction, that's the harbor that comes out that becomes East Haven. And Rob Thompson, this is his home area. As soon as we bring him on, he can tell you way more about this. I'm getting out over my skis here. So that direction is Long Island, that direction's East Haven, and that direction's Ocean Ave. And out there's a bunch of breakers. You know, in the morning when I come down here, we're 2 hours late. I usually come out here, get one of these Dunkin' Donuts black coffees, and head down to the spot and have quiet time and start getting my day organized and start making phone calls. And you know, I start moseying toward the office about 7:30 after I've been here for an hour and a half. And sometimes I stay in my car. Sometimes I go sit on the park bench. Sometimes I go for a walk. It's just a beautiful way to start the day.
So you're down at the beach every morning?
Every morning. Yep. You know, the dogs get up around 5:30, and I head out the door and hit Dunkin' when they're open at 6. They know me. You know, small coffees, $1.88 by Dunkin' down here. And in the era of the pandemic, I think I've become somewhat infamous there because they have a sign that says, please give us exact change. So I have a bag of change, and I literally count out $1.88 in exact change, quarters, dimes, nickels, and pennies every morning. They just hold their hand out in a cup, and I drop it in their hand. They hand me my coffee, and I'm gone. And
Simple.
I just 2 blocks away and park and, you know, wave it all, see all the same people every morning. We're the early morning beach people.
Yep. Even though this is a sports-centric show, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you to give us a weather report. You know, what's the weather to where you are? You know, what's the temperature? And you know, what's the surf report? That's people along the coast. They always want to know high tide, low tide, and the surf report.
So right now it was exactly 79 degrees when I got out of my vehicle. It's a little humid, which feels good. You want that down here. Yeah, I'm my biggest issue is sand in I've got flip-flops on because I'm on the beach and I got sand all over my feet. I'll have to deal with that when I get back to the office here when we're done with this. It's kind of mid-tide right now, and the mornings on the Sound it's slightly above glass. You know, this is when you want to paddleboard, kayak, sail, do all those things, and it's the beauty of the Sound. You know, it's not the waves of the ocean, which are fun to play in, but you can't really paddleboard, you know, jet ski, etc. I'm not even sure. You know, it takes a big sailboat to navigate those waters, but it's not Lake Michigan, where I've been many times when I was in Illinois. This to me, it's just ideal. It's a playground, and that's what it becomes on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday out here.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because we don't see a whole lot of people behind you today. You know, how quiet is it today versus what you would see on a weekend? What's the difference?
Oh, it's you know, all I've got some traffic over to the right, people coming, going to work or running errands. You know, there's some walkers going by on my left. The oyster boats have by now, most of them have either gone further out or you know, checked it in. But if you get out, when I'm out here at 6 a.m., you'll see oyster boats all over. Oyster Bay's that direction where they like to hang out. And, you know, so here I am in Midwestern talking like I know what I'm doing. But it's just a great way to welcome the day in and celebrate all things West Haven and all things University of New Haven. It really is.
We've often asked the question, why UNH? And certainly one of the answers is right behind you, our location. But this episode that we're doing is really about celebrating West Haven. Why is it important to celebrate West Haven?
You know, any place I've ever been, I'm at my 10th university, if you include where I went to school and where I've worked, and anywhere I've been, when you go out and you recruit or you fundraise or you do any of the things you do at a university, it's about a love for the university and a love for its community. And one of the things I think we've been negligent about at the University of New Haven over the years is we kind of keep our candle under the basket. You know, we haven't shouted out our song loud enough. And that goes for the university and it goes for our location. You know, we have this in our backyard. I live this every day. That's why we're doing this, just to show this is where I spend 2 hours every morning. It's my life. When I drive back, whether it be 6 at night or 8 or 9 or 9 at night, you know, John and Rob on this show, I'm often talking to them on the phone as I drive in. And once you start seeing the sand and the water and the people playing, your intensity level just goes down. You relax. All the things from the day become easier to handle. And I think my blood pressure is lower here than it's ever been, other than when I lived in Tampa and coached in South Florida 30 years ago.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue, because that's what I wanted to ask you next is, that calming effect that the water and the ocean has on all of us. Have you found yourself, and you just kind of alluded to it, but how have you changed as a person in the year you've been here and close to the ocean?
First of all things UNH. Kaplan told me when I came here, they said, you'll feel a greater impact. And I feel that every day. My staff, the coaches, even me, your interaction with the student athletes, the impact you can make with a small decision, it has a ripple effect that's much greater. So let's segue that down here to the beach. A day doesn't go by that, again, I don't spend time in the morning or come down here at night, walking the dog or walking down here now that my kids are off at college. Now this is memory, 3 months of one of them saying, Dad, let's go down the beach. That might be Abby. She had a long day on her internship watching, on the double screen computer with the company she worked for, ExxonMobil, for 8 hours. Literally, she'd run out barefoot down the middle of the street. My son Jake would grab the football, come down here and want to play catch. Or we'd go up to UNH and throw some bullpen, Or my son Luke, who's studying for the CPA. Of course, Jake, that was after he finished mowing and weed whacking for one of our UNH alums who runs a landscaping business here, Mark and Sheila Kreitzer, and who I spent a lot of time on the beach with. They might even have to have them as guests here soon. And then Luke, who's studying for the CPA, this is where he would come, once a day, just on his break, lunch, or maybe early evening. This was where he went to clear his head. And so really that's how we've used it as a family. And my wife, who's always a kind of a water sun person, just, she's kind of found her home.
Here we are in mid-August. How cold or how warm is the ocean at this time of the year?
Well, it's been great. I've never had a time since, late May when you couldn't get in. And when it's chillier, it's so refreshing. About 2 weeks ago, I got in and went, whoa, this is very swimmable morning, noon, or night. It's very warm right now. And every once in a while, you'll get Rob will tell us whatever those streams are of cool water, coming through. But for the most part, it's very, very warm.
Before we bring Rob in, just one more. Just one or two more questions before we bring Rob in. I know Rob is waiting in the wings here. I should say that later today on the podcast, our guest is Ron Quagliani, who is he's West Haven through and through, and we'll talk about that, but he is our University of New Haven Associate VP of Public Safety and Administrative Services, and I don't know many people who love West Haven more than Ron does, and he'll talk about that coming up later in the show. But again, Dr. Z, from where you are to where your house is, how long of a walk is it?
From where I am right now is 5 minutes. I really live up from Lake Street Beach, what the kids call Party Beach. My wife and I aren't really accepted there. That 2.5, 3 minute walk. Literally, you're up the street, X number of houses past the small lake, which, if you want a little trivia, I'm told is the closest fresh body of water to a saltwater body in the nation, across the street.
Interesting.
Little claim to fame. It's home to a bunch of turtles that people like to watch, and a fountain, and some bass fishermen. Kind of a fun little place with benches around it and so on and so forth. But it's a very quiet area until the young people show up on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, which just brings life to the place. So the young people are down there, the older people are down here, and it makes for a fun. And it goes, it's almost 3 miles up and down this direction. And at the end of this is Woodmont and the beach there. And of course, if you go on into Milford, you've got Gulf Beach, and at the very end of that, you got Walnut Beach. And going this direction, once you get to the end of where Jimmy's and Chick's and Stowe's and all those places are, then you're into the New Haven Harbor, for lack of a better word.
Dr. Z, I find it hard to believe that you would not be allowed or not be welcome at the party beach, right? I mean, how could it not be? It can't be a party without you. There's no way.
You know, I'm half afraid I'll stroll in there on accident someday and see some of our student athletes.
Yeah.
So, you know, I look from afar, and you know, my kids all made friends with the Westies here. And there's the concrete steps, and then there's the wooden steps. And the wooden steps are referred to as the spot. So we'd be sitting down here at Prospect with our friends, and my kids be looking at their phones, and, you know, a few minutes later, they're packing up and off they go to the spot. And we wouldn't see them for the next 6 hours. You know, West Haven is just so welcoming. I think they'd been here all of a week or two when they missed dinner. And they got home, and some of the Italian families here had invited them over, and all they did was rave about the pasta and this and the that and the red sauce or gravy, depending on which family you're with. And, you know, what a way to be welcomed into this community. You know, when they left for college this past week, you know, it was with a heavy heart. You know, they're anxious to go back to college and see their friends, but they have so many friends here that it's neat that this became a new home for them.
West Haven is a special place, no doubt. One more question before we bring Broccoli Rob in. Just a geography lesson for our students and student athletes and prospective parents who may not be too familiar with the layout. How far, from where you are now, how far is it from campus to where you are now? Could you walk it, or do you have to drive it?
You know, you would drive it. I've seen some of our students running on their runs. They come here, and some of our athletes, some of our graduate assistants. I'm told a lot of our students or student athletes or graduate assistants or staff live between here and there. It's just commonplace. But it's really, depending if you go down Campbell Ave or down some of the other streets that won't mean anything to other people. You know, it's 5 to 10 stoplights, you know, and so it's really what I call 5 to 10 long blocks. You know, short block to me is going this way. It's 2 houses, 2 houses, 2 houses. But if you're going stoplights or long blocks, it's 5 to 10.
Okay. So easy to get there on a run or on a bike, or if you want to, you know, if you drive, if you have a car, do the Uber thing. It's not too difficult. Well, let's bring in Broccoli Rob Thompson, who is, you know, just like Ron, who's coming up later in the show, is West Haven through and through. Rob is actually now in Florida. He had been in Saratoga for a while, and he and his family just moved to Florida. Now, in some regards, but probably this winter, we'll be jealous of Rob when he's in Florida and we're dealing with snow and whatever. Rob, right now, are you feeling a little jealous of where Dr. Z is sitting?
Oh, I wish I was sitting right across from him right now. And I didn't know that Dunkin' Donuts is now a sponsor of the podcast. So congratulations. Congratulations on that one.
Time to hit him up, Rob.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, I love it there. I grew up not too far from Prospect Beach. That was my roaming area. I was the captain of the Lake Street Party Beach at one point in my career. So that is, I mean, he lives in a great area of town. And a lot of memories, a lot of fond memories in that place. And obviously when we're back there, we spend a lot of time, in the mornings down at that beach together. So it's a great place.
Rob, do you have to be elected to be captain of the party crew or whatever you just said?
Self-proclaimed. It's the one who it's the one who drags the keg down to the beach and buries it during the day. You're the captain.
Rob is really responsible for introducing me to the places, things to do, and his stories and the lore of this place are kind of always in the back of my mind. And he showed me where to go when I do my morning, quiet times and whatnot. I kind of stole that area from him. And actually his parking spot, I went there for a while, he wasn't there, and said, no, I'm going to this other spot, back behind it 100 yards. I look at your spot, and everyone kind of finds their spot, and he's the one who said, hey, you need to try this restaurant or that restaurant. Now my wife and I are in a routine or even a rut of the restaurants that he suggested. And, you become such a Westie. I love Pepe's. So I'm using that as I love Pepe's. I haven't been there since I moved here because, man, I got some parties right that way. And Mike's even closer. And down this way, you've got, we talked about the dive bar that's home base for everyone in this neighborhood. So there's a place called Bonfire over in Milford or past Woodmont I really want to go to. I never get there because you don't leave the sand. You don't.
Rob, how do the West Haven beaches compare to other beaches in Connecticut? I know some people in West Haven you should be very proud of the beaches. Some people would say that you guys have the best beaches in the entire state. What do you think?
Yeah, just because I think the access to them, it's the access to the beaches is unparalleled, and I think the closeness to the road, just adds that exposure. When you're coming in from Milford, it's just I mean, I think it is the longest beach in the state that has access. Now the Hammond Acid and all that, but there's campgrounds built around it, and for the most part, there is anything on the beach. They did the zoning where there weren't houses for most of that beach on it, so the general public has access to fishing and swimming. So, and through the years, I mean, growing up there, that water, just because of the regulations and the environment, it wasn't always like what Dr. sees now with the oyster boats out there and the fishing and just the cleanliness. I mean, that's just across the country, but primarily in the Northeast and in Long Island Sound, it's crystal clear now, and I just think, there definitely wasn't the amount of people that would go on the beaches now. And I think a lot has to do with the good amount of people in the summer that are on those beaches are UNH students, and just because the admission, the enrollment at the school has quadrupled in the last 20 years, those kids aren't going home. They're staying in these year-round rentals. And the way that the city was set up, it almost became a premier rental kind of community for our students. And, like every other college and every community that has a college in it, they become one. The community and the town become the community and the campus and the town and the people become one because it employs a lot of West Haven people. And a lot of people that grew up in this town either got a master's degree or an MBA, or an undergraduate degree there, primarily a lot of times in criminal justice. And it became the town is connected. And because of the growth in the town, and I think because of the combination of the second generation, third generation started selling off some of those homes and renting out to the students, more so than ever before that I see right now, is that West Haven and University of New Haven are integrated. And I just think it's a great thing to see. And the transformation of the town has really started with the university down in Allentown, and it continues, and it's going to creep into the shoreline, and that is just going to be a natural business economic development thing that happens. The more people we bring into the community that are students, that have resources, that spend, that put their entertainment dollars infuse it back into the economy here with the restaurants and the gas stations and the entertainment, that's good for everybody involved. And it's really, really, it's one of the reasons why I came back to the university 30 years after my career, is to help be part of that whole time, be part of what's going to happen next. And, even though I could do it remotely now a little bit, but I can't stay away from, the broccoli rabe sandwich at Provenzano. So I had to give him a plug. So,
Charlie, I see Charlie several times a week and he appreciates that. Same thing with and all of our haunts. But, I have to dovetail on what Rob was talking about there is, as I started my experience here living in Branford, and while UNH enjoys a great reputation throughout the greater New Haven area, from Madison to Guilford to Branford to East Haven to West Haven to Orange to Milford and Stratford and beyond, going north to the North Havens and the Hamdens and the through Wallingford, so on and so forth. West Haven's its home, and so literally my next door neighbor, when I moved in, he asked me what I did for a living, and his daughter's boyfriend or fiance was sitting on the porch with him, and I told him what I did, and the guy started raving about growing up going to UNH football games, and he's showing me pictures the other day of what the stadium looked like in the 90s, and literally that weekend, my first, or maybe a couple weekends later, when I came down to Prospect Beach for the first time, the members of this club, I had women in their 60s coming up to me and hugging me and saying, I retired from UNH, and what a great place. And it's like, wow, I'm in the right place. If you want to enjoy feeling special about being at the University of New Haven, come to West Haven. There's 5 or 6 good universities, in the New Haven area. And I know that our students enjoy going down to New Haven, and all of those 5 or 6 universities enjoying the nightlife. That's part of college. in the New Haven area. But, you know, you come to West Haven, you've got the Campbell Crawl, you know, and you talk about how far are we from the university? A Campbell Crawl. It starts at the base of UNH and it ends, you know, down here at Savin Rock and Bradley Point.
Yeah, it's a rite of passage. That Campbell Crawl is a rite of passage.
Rob, earlier in the show, Dr. Z was talking about, you know, kind of UNH and West Haven being this candle in a bubble or candle in a box. Yeah. Why is West Haven and I guess UNH, you know, as a part of it, why is this still a secret to many people, especially here in Connecticut?
Because there's so many great places in Connecticut, you know, there really are to choose from. Obviously, it's an affluent state or perceived to be an affluent state, and a good majority of it, especially closer to New York City, is. But that's not the case with the rest of the state. You know, it's very much a farm and agricultural blue-collar state, especially if you look at the Shelton, Ansonia. You know, so we're spoiled. Like the people in the Northeast, it doesn't take us long to go anywhere. So and it takes us a while to go places because of the traffic. I think because New Haven has been such a beacon of light with restaurants and Yale, West Haven has always been the bedroom blue collar community. And certainly where the university is, it's kind of in the elbow of the city. And, you know, if you know, the shoreline is kind of the bright spot that a lot of people will see, that a lot of people, you know, will utilize. Maybe elbow is not the right word. Maybe it's in a heartbeat of the city, you know, because that's where a lot of the energy has come out of that area. And it all had to do with the university, you know, so I think the food has been unparalleled. There's so many great attributes to it. There's parts of town that, you know, just Savin Rock in and of itself, the people that live there who have generations of family that are from there, like myself, who have families that go way back. I just think that the history of Savin Rock in and of itself as a entertainment, amusement park, a massive tire factory that was there. Armstrong Rubber Company was there growing up when, you know, it was one of those towns that has had 2 to 3 different life cycles, you know, and I believe it's in a resurrection of that next cycle on the way up again. And it all starts at what's happening on our campus. There's not much building going on other than on our campus. And if you look at some of the, you know, so that is a hope, you know, driven attribute that we're providing out there to the people in the community. And when that happens, it just sparks other investment into, you know, into the town. So I think if you're looking from an investment standpoint, if you are someone out there who's looking to it's a great place to have massive housing, you know, because it's still on the shore, it's on the shoreline, it's close to the city, and it's also commutable. So I just, you know, if I'm coming from the outside looking in, I look at it as a huge opportunity to reinvest into this community for that reason. You know, the accessibility, the lifestyle, and the closeness to obviously the beaches. So I don't know if that answered your question, but it sounded good to me.
You know, Rob, I think there's a little piece of that is a new resident here, and that is the residents in terms of this beach area. They're very possessive of it, and it's not a tourism. You know, I don't know that there are many beaches in Connecticut that are tourism driven. Reminds me when I coached at Wyoming. You move there, and the locals would ask, "How do you like it?" And you say, "Oh, I love it." Well, that's not what they wanted to hear, because they didn't want more people moving in and staying. They wanted to keep it the way it was. And I'm not saying they're being provincial here. It's truly, this is their beach. This isn't a tourist beach. It's a local community beach to be shared with the residents, the students of UNH. You know, it's UNH Haven. This is our beach. And so I would say that to those who are looking at coming here or whatnot, that it's experienced a place where it's the local flavor, the local fare. It kind of reminds me when I visited the Florida Keys. You know, you dress as, you can tell the locals from visitors when, heck, sometimes you come down here, you don't even put on your bathing suit, you're just wearing your golf shorts, and you go ahead and get in the water in your golf shorts, you know, because you were just up the street, and you'll be back up there in 5 more minutes, you know?
You know, I think J.W. This may kind of go back to what your question was. By your junior year, you're looking at all colleges, you're looking to live off campus, right? You want a little bit more freedom. I think you need to be on campus for the first 2 years, but your junior and senior year, you want to live off campus. You kind of got who your main group of friends are, your 4 or 5, buddies, and all right, we want to live together. That has definitely been a catalyst here at the university. And the lifestyle for a student, and I mean, I know a lot of our student athletes live close to the beach area, and that is such a big part. I think sometimes a little bit of a missed opportunity for us to really promote that. And that's why I think we're doing, obviously, this is Dr. Z. Sometimes it takes someone from the outside to come in and say, boy, you guys are missing the whole thing here. And I agree with him 100%. And the thing about it is, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old looks at this as, holy cow, this is a huge part of why I wanted to go to this area to go to school, because of the accessibility and the lifestyle as a college student to have this, right? To have access. You talk about a college town. West Haven is a college town. It's a college town by default as well, but a college town with a beach. There's not, maybe URI is probably the same kind of setup a little bit, but there's not too many other colleges in the Northeast that are a college town / a beach community, right? It's probably us and URI, I would say, probably the only two. So we're unique in that sense. And Dr. Z he jumped on it right away. It was like, what are we missing here? You got great pizza, you got great beaches, and you got a great educational opportunity. That's an ingredient for me to grow a business. And so I commend him for that. And, that's why I'm on this podcast as well, to back him up, because I believe in that part.
Rob, you and I were talking yesterday about you are going to be responsible for our career development program in our athletic department going forward. And I know you've spent the last several years as a mentor for students in the sports management. And you have said that invariably when you talk to young people as they're in their junior, senior year, or maybe graduating, the experiences they have here, they always talk about how happy they are here. And what you just said reminds me of what you said yesterday about their experience. They're able to sample and dabble in all those areas. And who wouldn't love going to a school that had, the best pizza in the world, these beaches, great education. It's an intimate campus of 7,000 undergrads and graduate students and outstanding faculty and staff. And heck, we don't even talk about this here since I've come. New York's over there and Boston's up there, because these kids know that. They're from there. But I think they come here and it's all about this area. I'm kind of done selling how close we are to New York, unless I'm recruiting someone to come be a coach. I never go to New York. I love being right here. Why would I go to New York City? I've got this.
I think a lot of that is discovery, especially with your career. I mean, we could all agree upon this. There's not many things, and, we do remember some of our professors that were impactful, right? Or helped us with a job opportunity or an internship. But for the most part in college, you remember the fun times you spent with the people that you care about. And if you were a student athlete, you remember the play times of the big games you won or the ones that slipped away. But the memories that you have don't necessarily happen in those classrooms per se. Those are the foundation and the bricks to your career, right? And the fact that you've been given you got to get through those 4 years. But it's the memories that you build, and it's not just on campus. It's away from campus. It's the times that you have going out on great adventures and experiencing life. And for us as parents and educators, that is really probably 60 to 70% of the educational experience. And
Bob, there's a famous quote out there: "Don't let school get in the way of your education." I don't mean that literally, I'm an educator, but that's why I put my 2 youngest children on planes this last week and sent them back to hotspots of all things, because that's where they go to college. They can take their classes remote and stay with mom and dad, but that's not college. That's why they're back where they are.
Yeah, the one thing I would ask, and the same thing J.W. asked in the beginning, was why UNH? And when I was mentoring these sport management students, I asked them the same question. Why UNH? We all have different reasons why either the school selected us or we selected the school, right? And they all said the same thing. I felt like this was home to me, you know, and that could be because they grew up in an area similar, you know, and the people that work here kind of are what they're used to personality wise and how they talk and their actions. And I think that means something. When I was a recruiter, I would say the same thing in football was, don't pick a school. Just think of it. If football's not involved in this, or sports is not involved in the school, do you still want to be here? Because there's a big chance that you won't make it through the 4 years. That's just the reality of it, right? Especially in you know, contact sports. Something may happen. You may whatever, but do you still want to be here? And I think here it starts checking off those boxes. You know, number one, if I leave here with a degree in criminal law from University of New Haven, I know I'm getting a job. I know I'm getting a job, right? It's happening. So, okay, we got that checked. Am I going to have a good time here? Yes, there's a lot to do. You're never going to be bored at the University of New Haven, right? So, you know, do I like the people? Do I like the administrator? Do I like the staff? I'm rambling on, but you get my point. It's just there's so many different attributes to this thing, and there's a reason why it's been around for 100 years. And, you know, we're doing our darndest to see that it lasts another 100.
You know, Rob, as you say that, I'm remembering some of my first impressions when I got here, and they've only deepened since then. Every alum I've met from here it seems to be a deep connection or fondness of the institution, but particularly the former student athletes. It's truly, in my opinion, the heartbeat of our alumni of this institution, and there's something about it beyond any place I've ever been where the student athlete alums give back. And if they don't give back with money, they give back with time and connectivity. And that's, if someone said, name the top 3 things that really surprised you about UNH, you know, obviously we're talking about the water and all this, that's at the top of the list. It's the people, but really the student athletes, the alumni, their connectivity and their deep affection and connection to this place.
I think a lot is, it was always us against the world. So a lot of us that came to school here in that time, I mean, I grew up in a town that was us against the world. We were surrounded by a bunch of wealthy communities. All the teams that we played were wealthy communities. And it was, we want to beat the rich kids, you know, they used to have chants, you know, if we were beating them, some of the other wealthy communities, they would have chants that basically said, that's all right, that's okay, you're going to work for us someday. Think about that growing up. And that's just how it was, you know, and I could be proud to say I never worked for any of them.
Yeah.
But,
well, you know, Rob, my kids have become friends with those kids now. They call them Westies. And one of the greatest honors that happened over this summer was, particularly because of where we live right in the heart of that.
Yeah.
You know, these other kids my kids were the true Westies because they live in this little corner and the others were too many blocks away. But they were really talking about the culture and the fact that, you know, my kids fit into that atmosphere you were talking about. And I've been told by a breakfast club that meets every Saturday morning down at Four Burritos on Main Street in Campbell Ave that I'm an honorary Westie. I don't know that I can ever become a true Westie. I'll take honorary and be proud of it.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask J.W. a question, because I know you're patiently waiting to jump back in.
Yeah.
J.W., what was your first impression, honestly? You know, I mean, you've been in the area for a long time. What was your impression then, and how has it changed to where it is now? And be honest about it.
It's a great question. I don't know if people in West Haven want to hear this, but you know, when I first got here to Connecticut was 20 years ago. My youngest sister graduated from UNH in 1999, so I was familiar enough with the school and the surrounding areas. I had friends of mine from Marist, where I graduated, who had worked in this area and lived in this area before I got here. It was called Waste Haven, right? I mean, that's kind of the slap that this wonderful city was given, and I think that's maybe years ago that might have been somewhat true. But I don't see that as the case now. I mean, when I first got to UNH a couple of years ago, you know, I didn't see any of the stuff that I saw, you know, back in the 90s, let's say. You know, even in that short period of time, 20 years, things have changed for the best. So it's gone from Waste Haven, where you're kind of looked down upon, and I think now, you know, things that West Haven is a city on the upswing, because there is so many great things about it, and we've chronicled them not only in this episode but on this podcast throughout. So I'm hoping that stereotype is gone, and gone for good, because West Haven is a city on the rise. And I'm glad we're doing this show to celebrate West Haven, because I think that there's so much for this city to offer, you know, for certainly people who are at the University of New Haven, but also people who live in this area. And that's why I asked that question to you. I don't understand, having lived here for so long now, 20 years, I don't understand why this is still such a secret. I mean, even within our own state, you know, West Haven is not, people think when you're going down the shore, well, you're going to Milford, or you're going to Madison, or you're going over to Mystic, right? No one even thinks about, you know, maybe Cozy Beach and East Haven might be the closest, but nobody thinks about going to West Haven. And I've never understood that. I did a story a few years ago when I was working for the NBC affiliate here in Connecticut, went down to, you know, Savin Rock and did a story, and the guys playing bocce down there. I mean, you know, that is a great way to spend a day, you know, right out in front of Jimmy's, and you got the parking lot at Jimmy's, you got the beach, you got the bocce ball courts. They had like these tomato plants on the other side, and then there's the ocean. So yeah. I just felt it was a great place to work when the opportunity came up to be at the University of New Haven. And it's clear to me that things have changed in 20 years. Rob, you must have heard that, right? That must have been, you know, Waste Haven was thrown at you probably a lot when you were growing up, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's why they had the chant, you know, but you became part of that too. You kind of embraced it, you know, yeah. Even though you know that it wasn't the case of you personally. It did have a reputation. I mean, it was a tough community growing up. You know, the mix between, you know, we were racially mixed, and big, strong influence in Irish and Italian and Polish, Puerto Rican, and had a little bit of everything here, when you had very white communities around us. So when we show up with this racially mixed town, you know, there was an intimidation factor that we fed into, you know, and we loved. And, you know, there are some kids, just like every other community, whether you're poor or whether you're wealthy, you can't get out of your own way, you don't leave. So it's, you know, but the majority of people who have gone through the public school system, and even the private schools that grew up in this town, it's such a pride and an honor that you grew up there, you know. And even though it was never dangerous growing up here, we never saw any type of racial issues. There was never any of that, at least from my perspective. The other side of the table, there may have been, I don't know. But it was a fun place to grow up. It was a town that there was always something to do. There was a town that we loved to have the kind of the bad boy image. And, you know, it helped me later on in life, I can be honest with you, with the practical mentality of our parents, our teachers, our coaches. There was never who has the nicest house or who has the nicest car. I didn't have that growing up, so I didn't know it as an adult either, because I was like, you know, gosh, somehow we had fun without having a Mercedes. We did it in my mother's yellow station wagon with the big rainbow license plate on it, which today I still get abused by it. But you know, so I don't, you know, it's not really the town as much. And I lived in other towns in Connecticut. It's the people. It's what you're used to, you know, and I just think UNH attracts that blue collar, us against the world mentality. We have a president that's like that. That's just a gritty grinder, you know, and it just reflects in everything that we have, you know, and it reflects in how he's managing the school and our business, and just, you know, you know, I don't want to say it's for a certain taste, and I know I'm rambling, so I'll stop, because sometimes I forget we're not just having a conversation. So that's it. So that's mine.
You know, Rob, there's a couple things that jump out at me as you say that. One is my own personal experience, again, with my kids here. I live in the smallest house I've lived in since Laramie, Wyoming, ago. And that it's the location of the house that have made my wife and me and our kids accepted. No one's ever said, oh, that's the small house on blank street or whatever. It's truly, wow, you live within this certain area, and that's what makes you part of the family. And I've not seen anyone compare sizes of houses. I've had people recommend you ought to move to this house or this house or this house. It's all about its location. It's not about the size. Some are big, some are small. The other thing that will go hand in hand with what you said, and until you said it, it's just become part of my life, so I would not have thought of it. The diversity up and down this beach in our neighborhoods is incredible. And I love seeing the young people, the junior high, grade school, junior high, high school, college kids. Their groups are always diverse. And I just think that's a beautiful thing. And without going too far into that space with the world we're living in right now, this area is an example of what can be. And I'll leave it at that, as Rob said.
Well said, Dr. Z. Rob, thank you for your time. A Westie through and through. That's a badge of honor to be called a Westie, and he certainly is. And our guest coming up, he's waiting in the wings. He's been very patient. Ron Quagliani. We'll join him in just a couple minutes. But Rob, we're glad you're safe down there in Florida, and that the move went well. And we can't wait to see you back here in Westieville real soon.
Thanks, gentlemen. Take care.
Yep. That's our producer, Broccoli Rob Thompson. Dr. Z, real quick before we let you get back to the office on North Campus to continue the show, the sun is finally coming out behind you. The morning fog and the clouds have burned off. We have beautiful sunsets in West Haven. Sunrises in West Haven. We also have beautiful sunsets in West Haven as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the ironic thing is, a Midwesterner, to me, the water was either to the east or the west. Well, the water in our neighborhood's to the south. So, I'm facing west right now. My back's to the east. So the sun rose over my shoulders, and, our house faces the east. And my wife's constantly fighting what plants she can plant. That we're not used to that. And so that's in and of itself unique. The water's to the south. What I would say before we sign off, I'm fully aware as I look at the screen, I think you're just seeing my silhouette as the sun has gotten brighter and brighter, and that's okay. I think that's part of the show. We got here to sit at the beach for you to see the water and the sand and the beauty of it, not me. So I kind of like the fact that I became this silhouette on the screen, and not to mention the dust from the salt in the sand has covered my screen. So if I'm looking fuzzy at all, that's the other part of this, which just makes it even more real time and authentic. But what a fun experience this has been. I'm trying to read your mind. We may have to turn this into, we were going to talk for 10, 15 minutes. If my hotspot worked and I'm not dragging too much on your screen, this may have to be 2 shows and not just one. And that's a testimony to West Haven as well.
That's right. Absolutely. Well, Dr. Z, I'll let you sign off and get back to the office. And, either we finish the show here or we bring Ron out. We'll let our executive producer, John Mays, make a decision on that. But Dr. Z, this was a great idea to celebrate West Haven. It was important we do this show. And I'm glad that you were able to show all of us, what our backyard looks like. I mean, University of New Haven is Connecticut's coastal university, and it's easy to see why.
Thanks, J.W. We'll see you in a few minutes.
You bet, Dr. Z. Thanks very much. And I want to let all of our viewers and listeners know about, especially the alums in our audience, about the Centennial Ball, which will be held virtually this year on Saturday, October the 3rd. We want to encourage all of our alumni to participate and to register. The cost is very reasonable this year. It's just $25 per person. It promises to be a memorable evening of student showcases, entertainment, and a live auction. More details to come here on the podcast. Your support through the Centennial Ball will help us get closer to meeting or even succeeding our ambitious $120 million Charger Challenge goal, which is part of the campaign for the University of New Haven. For more information or to register for the Centennial Ball, just go to the website, newhaven.edu/alumni.